Hi, this video is the first in the series to showcase AutomationEdge Custom Reports. We will build Sales Data Custom Reports dashboard with several reports to analyze sales revenue by sales type, region, product, and month. We will create several dashboard reports in a series of videos. Let us begin. I have logged into AutomationEdge UI. On the Reports menu, AutomationEdge has the provision to create dashboards. On the dashboard, you can add reports. AutomationEdge comes with several pre-built reports for agent, user, and workflow performance analytics. AutomationEdge also offers features to create custom reports on customer application data. First, let us create a sales dashboard. Provide a description. You can optionally check to show the description on the dashboard. You can select a report time unit from the drop-down list as per the required frequency. Let me select minutes. You can optionally provide a refresh every, say, 10 minutes in my case. You can use dashboard level duration for reports, or you can uncheck to have individual report level duration. In the duration, select from the drop-down list. None means it'll pick up all the data, today, relative, or custom duration. For now, I will put it custom duration. You can specify a date range. For example, I can say June 2021 to June 2022. Click Create. For custom reports, you need to define data sources and templates. You can then use templates to publish reports on the dashboard. Let us go to Data Sources. I have already defined a data source custom report. In a data source, you need to select the database type, the data source name, a JDBC connection string, and the username and password. You can test your connection and also update connection. Let us leave it for now. Go to the templates. You can define one or many templates for the data source. Let us define a new template. Provide a template name. Say total sales revenue. Provide a description. You can select the data source. You can optionally select an associated workflow. It filters report data for the workflow, and only users with permission to the workflow will have access to the template. The report query can be a JSON flat query or a structured query. There is a common predefined JSON template for flat and structured report queries. I will begin with a simple report to describe the JSON elements for flat and structured queries. Let me begin with a flat query for a simple report to get the total sales revenue. The components of the JSON template include: the first element is the query string. The query string is applicable only to flat query. Hence, in this case, we have provided a query string where we are selecting the total sales from sales revenue table. You can provide the where clause, the order by and group by clauses. I've put a simple query in this case. The next JSON element is projections. Here you need to specify all the columns you want to display on the report. Projection is an array of the following elements: the column expression, that is the table name and the column name, a user-friendly label, the data type of the column, such as string, number, duration, date, and hyperlink, an aggregate function, such as average, count, and sum. You can optionally provide color codes. We will see an example later in the video series. You can provide a width for the column, and you can display it as an icon. You can provide horizontal and vertical alignment. We will discuss these with examples later. The from clause is applicable only for structured queries. In case of flat query, it is part of the query string, so it is null here. The where clause is also applicable only to structured queries. Since this is a flat query, we have null here. If applicable, provide placeholders for parameters such as date, tenant ID, workflow ID, and user ID. In the where clause, group by and order by elements are applicable only to structured queries. Specify the list of columns in the group by clause for a structured query. Specify the list of order by expression for a structured query. Need summary is applicable to structured queries. Provide a Boolean value that is true or false, specifying if summary row should be present for the report or not. The inner query column name is applicable only to structured queries. If the report needs a feature where clicking on a row drills down further, provide the column's name to use for further grouping. This name must be present in the projections. The next is date column name. It is applicable only to structured queries. The duration is governed by the dashboard or report duration provided. To make it effective, provide the column on which the engine adds the date filter. This parameter value in the query table should be of type date. For now, leave it null. Workflow ID column name is applicable only to structured queries. If you want to filter data based on workflow ID, provide the workflow ID column on which the engine adds a filter. For now, leave it null. Workflow ID param names is applicable only to flat queries. If you want to filter data on workflow ID, specify a list of parameter names for workflow IDs. These parameters should be present in the query prefixed with a colon. AE engine identifies these parameters in the query. It substitutes these query parameters with the runtime values. This parameter value in the query table should be numeric. Start date param names is applicable only to flat queries. The duration is governed by the dashboard or report duration provided. To make it effective, specify a list of parameter names for the start date. These parameters should be present in the query prefixed with a colon. AutomationEdge engine identifies these parameters in the query and substitutes these query parameters by the start date timestamp of the report. This parameter value in the query table should be of type date. End date param names is available only to flat queries. The dashboard or report duration governs the duration. To make it effective, specify a list of parameter names for the end date. The parameter should be present in the query prefixed with a colon. AutomationEdge engine identifies these parameters in the query. AE engine substitutes these query parameters by the end date timestamp of the report. This parameter value in the query should be of type date. Tenant ID param names is applicable to both flat and structured queries. Specify a list of parameter names for tenant IDs. These parameters should be present in the query prefixed with a colon. AutomationEdge engine identifies these parameters in the query. It substitutes these query parameters by runtime values of the tenant ID of the user running the report. This parameter value in the query table should be numeric. User ID param names is applicable to both flat and structured queries. Specify a list of parameter names for user IDs. If tenant users execute a custom report with the user ID param names option, the user can see rows that contain his user ID. However, if tenant administrators execute a custom report with the user ID param names option, the user can see all rows for the first 1000 users. This parameter value in the query table should be numeric. Validate your JSON query. You can view the query, enable chart configuration if you need a graphic chart. Provide x-axis and y-axis labels, matching labels in the projection. Check non-numeric depending on if the value is numeric or non-numeric. In the plot against label, provide a label matching a label in the projection to get a transposed display of the value selected. It will be additionally plotted on the graph. Else leave it null to display singular values. For now, let us uncheck the chart configuration. Click Create. You can also edit the template. You can also copy the query. Once you create a template, you can create reports with it on the reports dashboard. Let's go to the dashboards menu. Open your dashboard. Let us add a report. In the report type, select Total Sales Revenue template. If you did not assign a workflow during template creation, you could select workflows from the drop-down list on which you wish to generate the report. Select a page size. In this case, the report duration is coming from the dashboard. Click Generate. Since we did not provide a chart configuration, it appears in tabular format. Click Add as Table to the dashboard. It shows the template name by default. You can modify the title if required. Click Save. The report is now visible on the dashboard. If you hover around the bottom, you can see options to refresh the report, download as PDF or a CSV file. You can maximize for the report view. You can also alter the report settings. In this video, we saw the components of a custom report. We created a data source, a template, and a dashboard. And we published a custom report in tabular format on the dashboard. Thank you for watching.